After the 24 CrossFit Games, there's a lot of clamoring about the safety and welfare of the athletes. We're about a year after that, and today we have the man with the plan. Right now, Clydesdale. Let's go.
Love the chase and the hunt, and I set the pace when I'm running. I always take what I want and I always give it 100. Don't need a bank, no I'm funded. Play the game like it's nothing. I'm always thankful for something. Don't take for granted, stay humble. Now wake up! It's time to look at the enemy. Look in the mirror if he is no friend to me.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome to Lunch with the Clydesdale Lunch with Friends episode. I have Josh Hicks with me. What's going on, Josh?
Hey, man. How's it going?
I don't think I've ever called you Josh in our friendship.
Yeah, it felt really weird, but it's okay.
Yeah. So I call you Hicks. We'll do that from the rest of the way through. And just for people to understand, I've known you. God, I was thinking back, we're like over a decade of friendship.
Yep.
You and I both started our like CrossFit kind of, I don't know, not life, but like this getting involved in events as volunteers. You were on the medical team. I kind of like traipsed around on the event team and different things, and finally found my way to security and judging. And when I hit security, we worked a lot with the medical team and we became better friends. And so I've known you probably ever since like 2014, 2015.
Yeah, I'd say 2015.
Yeah. So what made you want to be a volunteer at CrossFit events?
That's a funny story, but I'll give you the Cliff Notes of it. I had an affiliate at the time. I was in the process of opening, and one of my friends in the area told me that we were there's far more to the story, but I'm just giving you the Cliff Notes. I was doing a Saturday morning workout at the gym that I was a member of while I was opening my gym, my affiliate. And they said, hey, we had a run that was like 800 meters. And to do that, you had to kind of run down the side of the road, the main road. So we went up to the stop sign. I hung a right. I'm running. And one of my buddies said, hey, Rich Froning's next door. He's next door. You should swing over. And I was like, all right, cool. I'll go over there. So this was like 2014. And so I didn't finish the workout. I wasn't into CrossFit super competitively at the time, so I didn't finish the workout. Hold that against me now if you want, but it worked out. It worked out in the long run. But ran across the road. Rich was there. We got to talking. I have a picture from that day, and he said, "Oh, you're a paramedic. You should look into volunteering. I think they got a med team at the games that would benefit from having more people like you." I was like, "That's cool. I'll look into it." Thought didn't cross my mind again for couple months, and then logged onto the website and I saw all these different areas you could volunteer. And there were like, you remember the old website, it's like 6 different things. You list your first one and then second. So I put medical as my first one, and then I did security, and then I did equipment, and then I stared at it for a minute and I deleted security and equipment and went medical, all the way down to the bottom. And the gentleman that was in charge of the team reached out to me and said, hey, you don't have anybody else. What if I don't choose you? And I said, I guess I'm not going. And he said, all right, roger that. And then a couple hours later, I got my acceptance letter and just got into it from there. When I went and volunteered my first year, I instantly hooked. I mean, it was just like, man, this is the team I need. This is the team I want to be a part of. I love this sport. I just want to, do what I can for it. And started noticing things that we were doing that were good, but could be improved on. And that's kind of where everything else started. We started there, and it's done nothing but expand from there. First time I ever worked a CrossFit Games team was in Carson. And we had 23 people on the med team for the whole event. So growing to what it is now, it's pretty incredible.
We're going to talk about that growth, but I want to preface this. Like, I don't want this to be a formal interview. I said this to you before we went live. This is a hangout show. We have people in the chat. We want them to be involved. This is just you and me shooting the shit like we do at every event, sitting on a bench or whatever it is. And that's the cool story that you got in that way. I remember the same thing. A guy talked me into signing up. and you had your list of options. You picked your first, your second, your third. I wasn't as committed as you were to one team, so I did fill out some different ones. But yeah, that's how I got in. Aaron
That
Fraser is this Austin Hatfield's dad?
Maybe cousin, close cousin. I don't know. We're from kind of the same area. There's probably a family vine that runs up that way.
CrossFit says this guy definitely either as a trail boss or like a lariat.
Actually, I have a first gen Toyota Sequoia that's lifted, has a winch, is getting a winch front bumper, and it is the whole back end of it's geared up for deer hunting.
There you go. So a year ago, a tragic event happened at the CrossFit Games. Lazar Jukic lost his life. You were not a part of the medical team that year. Am I correct?
Yes.
And you had been a part of the medical team for years before that. Like
yes.
You, Carson. So you did all of the years in Madison. And then that year you were off.
Actually, I didn't do the last year in Madison. I was there, but I was at the Mayhem campground. That's where I was working. I just, a lot of speculation on that. People like to say reasons that I left, and they're never accurate. Personal reasons that I left, deeply personal reasons that I left that have absolutely nothing to do with the sport or the team. But I left in I did the 2022 games, led the med team, and then 2023, I wasn't involved. So 2023, 2024, I wasn't involved. 2025.
All right. So again, this is just you and me talking on a bench.
Mm-hmm.
So you leave, you do some other things. And you and I have talked, and I know some of the reasons you left, and some opportunities, some more personal stuff, things like that. So so Lazar's death happens, and then all of a sudden you are kind of thrust into the spotlight all of the sudden.
Yeah.
Now, during that time, you were coming up with a program to teach affiliates how to best respond in a crisis situation.
Yeah. That was the MedicRx was my process. It's kind of evolved into more of an event-based thing now at this point, and we don't even use that name anymore. But yeah, that was my goal.
Right. But during those 2 years that you were not at the games, you were like deeply involved with that, trying to teach affiliates, like, if this happens in your gym, this is the plan you need to have in place and the skills you need to have there to make sure that people survive.
Yeah. Yeah. It's near and dear to my heart. Honestly, man, just like you said, just chatting. It's not ever a situation where I need to make a name for myself or I need to be the best. I don't want to do that, but I would like to leave the sport and the community and everything involved with it a little better than I found it. Not that it's bad or that anything's wrong with it, but I think we all just like to leave a little bit of a mark in a positive manner. I want my kids to be involved with it. I want it to, I want the sport to continue on for that. So that's kind of what I want to do. I've never professed to be the best. I don't want to be the best. Would be nice to be undeniable. So working towards that, but the best is not something I'm after.
Right. But you put a lot of work into that. It was a lot of documentation, a lot of plans, a lot of things like that. And I think that plays a part into what happens next. And,
so I will go ahead.
I want to set this up. So in 23, you led the medical team.
22, I led the medical team. Wasn't there 23.
22, you led the medical team.
Yes.
Then you take those years off to do this, put all that work in, and you and I had talked, and like the documentation part of that was huge.
Yeah.
So then this happens with Lazar at the games, and all of a sudden you are thrust into, we need you back.
Well, I don't know. I don't know if I was thrust directly into that statement.
Not just from CrossFit.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Event leaders around the globe said, we need to make sure we have good safety protocols in place. And you had done all this documentation for affiliates. How much of that can translate to safety plans for events?
You know, that is a really good question that I asked myself about a year ago. And I just I was wise enough when I was younger to not throw away all the beginning work, like all the etch work that I did, all the beginning first edition EAPs and stuff, if you want to call them an edition. So I kept all that and I got it on a Google Drive that I had to transfer over to an external hard drive because there's so much information in there. So you can kind of see the evolution of these things as I went across. And the good thing for that is it's really good quality control. You know, sometimes as we go, because this is, you know, now it's closing in on over a decade worth of information. So things that we were doing in 2016, 2017 have come full circle and they're coming back around, and people are thinking, because we got new people in and they're thinking, you know, they're seeing through new eyes and they're thinking, oh, maybe we could do this. And I can say, you know, if they ask me about it, well, we tried that once, it doesn't really work. And then of course, if you come up with an idea and I tell you, nah, it's not going to work, you're going to want to know why I have that opinion. And I have the documentation behind it. Well, we tried it and this didn't work and this didn't work and this didn't work. And this is why. And then areas of that we can look at and see if we can modify it to make it into a better process. And that, you know, that's kind of been what I've been doing. So over the past year, I've been compiling this information, down into something. I'm trying to get like an ebook together because this year, this has been my full-time job, and I have become increasingly more aware that there is only one of me. And I've only got a handful of people. I'm very big on training my replacement. You know, anything could happen. I get hit by a bus tomorrow. A radioactive deer could take me out of the tree stand. You know, anything could happen. So
radioactive deer nuts down in Tennessee.
They're crazy. So, you know, anything could happen. So I think I just need to be better equipped. I actually, let me rephrase that. I think I need to equip the community better so that it's not just me, that there are multiple resources, because you know, you don't want to create something that you're passionate about and that you love that has a positive benefit and to the community as a whole, and then something happened to you and all your work's gone. So I need to have a way to pass that along, which is kind of what I'm in the process of putting together so that I can do that.
Corey Leonard says, please don't get hit by a bus while hunting radioactive deer.
Well, if it's a bus, I'm probably driving it. So there's that.
Hicks sounds like Rich did in the 2010 BTS videos.
Yep, you can't shake the redneck out of my voice.
You are close to Cookeville too, right? You live in the Tennessee mountains.
Yes.
What, 45 minutes from Cookeville?
No. I'm farther than that. I'm about 3 hours. If I don't catch traffic in Knoxville, about 2 1/4.
Okay. Corey also says safety third is not in Hicks vocabulary.
No, most definitely not.
Just joined, wasn't watching, had to pull up video. I thought Tyler Watkins was talking.
Yes. Tyler's voice. We do share a timely kinship of this redneck sound.
So you have all this documentation, you're kind of thrust back into the community and the events right after that event. The WFP launches, they hire you to run that like safety thing. And are you still part of the medical team with that? Or is it kind of a separate entity of its own?
So essentially the role that I'm filling for WFP, or that I was hired for, is Director of Medical and Safety. So I do the on-site safety checks, tie in with insurance stuff, all of our documentation I keep and direct. And then I've got the vetting of the med team. So we do have a medical lead. That's Jeremy Johnson. He's been with me everywhere. If you needed a team lead and I wasn't available, this is the guy that you want. And he is, you know, we've got a handful of other people that are, you know, capable of doing the same things. And I'm trying to figure out a way to get that out. But for WFP, that is essentially what I do. It's a little bit more in depth at a much higher level than the medical team directly is. But I have been occupying that role for Wadapalooza since 2019, the Director of Medical and Safety, where I'm tied in a little bit with security, liaison with on-site EMS, contracting them if we contract them, or tying in with the city if we don't. which is what I did for a lot of the in-person qualifiers, semifinals this past year and years in the past. Just kind of tied in with all those resources, and it's just kind of what I do. I'm actually chasing some new certifications right now currently.
Okay. And then I know I saw you at the age group games. I know I saw you at the CrossFit games. How much were you pulled back into the CrossFit team?
I would say that anybody that has been involved with the games team, especially the medical side, understands it's not just a team. So it ends up being an extended family. Some of the best friends I've ever made in my life are within that team. They still are. And it is, it's something that is, it's very near and dear to my heart. And I think once you're a member, it is easier to see from the inside, things that are happening on the outside. So, I wouldn't say that I was drawn in on an official level. I've been in some communications with them. I touch base with a lot of people. We share information. We share ideas all the time. Drills, operational drills, EAP drills, things that I've done. Whether anybody wanted to admit it or not, I don't really, and I think I've said this about 1,000 times now, but I don't really have a side to anything. I have a job, and whether I'm here or not, the job remains. So I'm going to continue doing that job to the best of my ability, wherever I'm at. And so sharing ideas is a part of that. And you want to find things that work and find things that don't. And by sheer volume, I'm able to test more ideas across a vast platform of events. So, and I've come up with ideas in the past that have been like, this is a great idea. And then we do it. And I'm like, we are never doing that again. That was a terrible idea. Scrap it from the books. And that goes into my documentation of, hey, we tried this, it didn't work. So, yes, I've kind of been tied in, but not in an official capacity, just information sharing and when people reach out.
So at the age group games, were you a lead there?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Lead. This year's been very hectic for me. I've done, as of right now, I have done 18 events this year, and I've got 3 more to go.
Well, Denise Moore, who won the 65 to 69 division female, she knows 2 ladies at the age groups that got injured. That's just one division. So I bet the medical team was very busy at the age group games. How much complexity does an age group games? One, you're an older population of athlete. 2, they have multiple floors going on at the same time. How much complexity does that add as a lead?
So I think that a lot of times when you're referring to the medical divisions, you tend to kind of cornerhole that into a single entity of you're just going to provide medical care, but there's so many different facets. And if you want to be a good medical team lead, I tell people this all the time. I'm kind of detached from the actual medical care. I still do it when we get backed up or I have to, but for the most part, my entire job is around risk mitigation. So I want to make sure that every risk avenue has a plan or is averted in some way. So that's kind of my job. And a big part of that as a medical team lead is the logistics of moving your people around. And we have very standard rotations on the field where you'll have a team. Each floor should have, idealistically, sometimes we're shorthanded. We were at age groups, so we were stretched a little thin, but we made it work, and we made it work well. I had a really good team there for the people that I had, so it worked very well. But what we do is, well, ideally speaking, you'd have a field, and there'd be 3 teams, one field right, one field left, one off the field, and about every 45 minutes to an hour, they'll rotate in a clockwise manner. So the one that's off the field will go right, right will go left, left will go off the field. And that serves a ton of purposes, logistically speaking. And this comes from my EMS background for search and rescue. When you are stuck in an area for an extended period of time, it's kind of like driving on the interstate and getting road hypnotized, where you drive for 40 miles and you don't remember anything. So we move them so it changes their perspective, keeps their eyes fresh, but then it also gives them a rest off the field so they're not having their mind overtaxed. And that's the biggest thing with it. And that was stretched a little bit at age groups just because of lack of volunteers, lack of med team staff. It was just, it's just one of those things. It's an obstacle that you have to recover from. And I've got plans for all that in place. They came out this year. There are things I came up with in 2017, 2018, and have never had to use until this year, but they work great.
Gosh, I got so many questions for you. So let's ask the big question here. This thing happened in 2024. What is the major difference you see as a medical lead and safety advisor in the fitness space from that point forward?
So let me restate your question and make sure I'm answering exactly what you're asking. Are you asking my lesson learned that I'm taking away to apply to other events, or are you asking errors that I may have seen?
I like both questions. Let's start with lessons learned.
Okay, so
a positive light.
Yeah, so lessons learned is that accidents are just that. There are ways to eliminate risk, but the nature of sport is that risk is ever present. And there are things to mitigate that. Drills, testing, making sure that your team knows where they need to be, when they need to be there, making sure they're vetted and they have the skills. All of those were in place. And then sometimes accidents happen, and you can only take away from those accidents the mistakes that are shown through investigative cycles and improve on those later. It doesn't change the fact that something happened, but the movement forward has to change. And that was, that's all I could really take from that. I wasn't there. I don't know. I know a few of the intricate details. And I don't have the personal experience level to speak about that, or even errors, because I don't know what was going on behind the scenes to a deep level. I can tell you beyond a shadow of a doubt that nobody goes into these events with the expectation of hurting an athlete or a staff member or anybody. The expectation is not there to cause an injury to the community or a person or even a loss of life. That doesn't mean that things won't happen. They're inevitable. Our sport, I think, a lot of people, it's hard to imagine because of how quickly the CrossFit sport grew. It's hard to imagine that we're still an infant sport. So there's still lessons to be learned. I think a huge lesson to take away is that planning and structure will almost always rule the day. And planning and structure can be in place at a high level, and a bad thing still happen. And that's kind of, I don't want to go too far into the weeds on that, because I know I'm bad at it, but that bad about doing that. So yeah, I mean, that's what I would take away from it. That's what I have taken away from it. There are things that I'm not going to change about the way that I run events, because I know that they work. There are things that I am going to change. And that's based off of just learning and knowledge of seeing how the events have played out since then. Not just that one, but the events since then.
So let me ask you this. As an outside observer, you saw what happened. I'm sure you've been given information that some of us probably don't have. What are you putting in your current plans to make them a little more solid than they were prior to that day?
Oh, that's a ever-encompassing question. I haven't changed a lot, to be perfectly honest and frank. I won't change a lot in terms of water events, because the water events that I've ran in the past have been, historically speaking, they've been like Wadapalooza, which is a heavily coastal event, and we have resources there. But I would say one of the things that I have been very active about, and you could see on my social media, is teaching CPR, because ever present, however you want to look at it, I get a question a lot. It's blown up my Instagram quite a bit. It just keeps resurfacing over and over and over again. Is the staffing issue at all of these events? Does that have anything to do with the event happening last year? And my answer is no. Like, I just don't see that the negative effects from last year have spanned that far in terms of people not wanting to volunteer. I think what we have is a growth of the system into more events. So it's diluted the pool of volunteers, because, you know, people don't understand that volunteers are doing this. They're coming to these events and allowing us to watch these top tier events based on their own passion for the sport, and it's on their own dime that they come. So if I have to take vacation time, spend my own money, get my own room and board, my own rental cars, or drive up, or whatever it is I'm doing, food and stuff. Well, food's taken care of there, but you know, the outside stuff after the event, if you're any extra spending you're doing, it's all coming out of pocket. And I have an option to fly 1,500 or 2,000 miles to do an event, or I've got one 40 miles down the road that has an equally large number of athletes. I'm probably going to do the one where I have closest resources. It saves me time. I'm not burning as much vacation time. And that's a big deal. And so part of the things that I've changed in the way that I do this is I sat down and I looked at resources that we had. And, you know, one of the medical team's entire purposes is to preserve life on the field. And the worst case scenario is a cardiac arrest or a long bone injury. And when I say long bone, I didn't mean to get like off in the weeds there, but I mean like a femur or something that's going to really restrict movement and that you need a higher level of care for, or spinal injury where you've just got to immobilize them in place. Well, that's what we would call an EAP activation, emergency action plan. That's an activation where all gameplay stops. And if I've got, you know, at TFX this year, day one, there were only 2 med team members. And that included me, myself, and the lead. We're the only ones there for a semifinal because we didn't have anybody that could get in there fast enough. They got there the next day and we had an expanded team the next day, but day one was an issue. So that's when I implemented that first plan and we refined it there and it worked great. And we've expanded it since then. So at TFX, you would see, I looked at the resources. What's an untapped resource that we have that can be utilized in the event of an emergency? I'm not talking decon or walking around on the field. I'm talking in the event of an actual emergency. And what we have is judges. Judges are in every lane. They're right next to every athlete. So I started asking the judges at the head staff or at the head judge meetings. I'd say, hey, I need to talk to your teams. Went over the ideas with them. They liked the idea. We have medical professionals that are working in other teams. They have CPR. They have experience with CPR. So they started wearing a red cross on their shoulder. That's our resource. If we call an EAP, those people move to the middle. And I know a lot of people on here have seen where we do, I aptly named it the Jericho drill. It's where we do an EAP activation and the judges form a barrier around who we're treating. They make a ring. Well, that came from Wodapalooza. We tested it in 2019 and it went into full effect 2020. And it has been across the board. You saw them do it at the French Throwdown. I didn't teach anybody there. We had some judges that have become pretty good friends of mine that were at Rogue and they asked me for details on it. I talked to them, I gave them the details, and they took it to Europe where it was implemented. I'm actually getting chill bumps. When you do something and it has that large of an impact, it was really good to see that go into action. But I looked at that ring and I said, you know, if we have those people in that ring with their back turned to us and they're CPR capable, we'll put a red cross on their shoulder, turn them and face us. Then when we need to switch out for chest compressions or whatever else, we can pull that person down. It fills the hole. So that's a resource that goes untapped. You know, even if you have a local competition and you have nobody for medical, but you've got some people that are CPR trained and you've got EMS on standby, you have a resource there to have a medical element, maybe not a medical team, but a medical element there. And those are for emergency use, just like an AED. They're there in case you need them.
So I want to bring this up, but Denise says, isn't CPR knowledge something that everybody should have? Do I not remember that you guys trained some judges at Wodapalooza CPR right before the event?
So that was, we actually implemented that in all the head staff at WFP in Indianapolis. Okay. I taught a CPR class and I got them all certified.
So every lead at WFP is CPR.
Yes, certified. CPR certified. Even some MCs are CPR certified.
Wow, that's really cool.
Yeah. So, and we're implementing that at other events too. And I've been talking to the AFJ and some of those guys, and when they are teaching their seminars, we're going to start. We're working on the capacity and what that's going to look like, but we want to include a CPR certification in there, and that's where my old course, the MedicRx, comes in. We'll pull aspects from that and add it to their course, because I can get one of those courses done fairly quick in a day. I might have to, if I've got a slew of judges I've got to teach, I'm going to have some help, but I've got resources. Med team members are CPR instructors. They're willing to come out with me, and we can teach these classes. The big thing is that, these classes, if you're being taught for an event from somebody like me, I'm going to be able to give you details that aren't just pump and blow. It's going to be, hey, this is something you might experience on the field. This is what we're looking for. This is what we're waiting for. And people that are on the field, especially judges, are very used to the stress of the environment, the high speed, low drag setup of those events. So they're going to already be attuned to it. And that's one of the things that these EAP full dress rehearsals do. It gives everybody an idea of what to do in an emergency, in a traumatic emergency situation like that. The calmest head wins the day. So if people know what to expect, they are way less apt to have an emotional reaction and more of a logical response, which is what we want.
Jody Lynn, all I need to know about CPR, I learned on The Office: staying alive, staying alive.
Yeah. Just don't cut somebody's face off and wear it.
Yeah. True that. So Shanna Bunce, she is a doctor. So she wants to know, do you ever respond if a spectator goes down?
That's a unique question. I'm really glad somebody ask it so I can answer it. We treat inside the ropes. Inside the ropes are volunteers, staff, and athletes or athlete adjacent, like a coach. The primary function of us is not spectators. However, if I have given out one Band-Aid to a spectator with a blister, I have given out 10 trillion. So that is the number one thing that we do. But we are medical professionals. If somebody goes down and I am within eye shot or earshot of it, I will be there. We did that at Rogue. We had a spectator have a seizure. I have had spectators have, thankfully not a cardiac arrest yet, but one of those things. If we have those resources, we will respond to it. Very few events that I work have a medical director, which opens up the treatment that we can place, but it is a very big price tag for that. So we operate on a BLS standard, which means that you may have paramedics, nurses, so doctors are a little gray area. If they're local, they can operate off their licensure, but RNs, LPNs, EMTs, firefighters, paramedics, we can operate off of that BLS standard very, very directly.
What does BLS mean?
BLS would be basic life support. So that's going to be CPR, basic bandaging. ALS would be like IVs. It would be like a cardiac monitor, medications. If you've ever come to any of our clinics where we don't have a medical director and needed like an ibuprofen, you will note I did not give it to you, and neither did any of my staff, because that is a medication. I can set it down, and what you choose to do with that is up to you, but I can't give it to you directly. I'm not going to start IVs. I'm not going to put you on a cardiac monitor in the back. I'm not going to do that unless I have a doctor there who can direct those actions under their licensure. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Right.
And so an event would have to hire a medical director to kind of be over that. And they are a doctor.
Yes.
That would then, okay.
Yes.
Wow. You think something so simple, yet it's way more complicated than you could ever. Back to the volunteer piece. And I know, I was a judge, I was security, all that kind of stuff. One of the biggest things is they have a number that they want signups to cover the event. And inevitably you get no shows.
Yeah.
Right before the event. And I think at the Age Group Games, I talked to one of the head judges, and they lost like 15 judges the night before the first event who just never showed up.
Yep.
So then all the plans you have for the personnel that you're given are off kilter because you don't have the numbers you thought you'd have. Is Correct. There any like forethought into maybe we need to like overpopulate that volunteer thing. So because we know we're going to get no shows.
So most of the events that I can pretty much go on record, all the events that I work for shoot for a higher level. They'll ask you how many you need with an expectation of covering that gap. And, I did that for age games, the age groups. I gave them a number, and out of that number, we had 34 people that replied back that they were going to be there and that they were going to work. I went as far as to vet the licensure of 31 of them, knowing good and well that 3 of them were probably not showing up because they didn't reply to any emails past a confirmation. And then the day of, I have like 9 people show up. Nobody else. Can't get a hold of anybody. Nobody's replying. So in those situations, it's always good to have a backup plan. I'm, career paramedic, just retired. I operate on the worst case scenario every time I clocked in. So the worst case scenario for me is showing up on scene with a bunch of untrained personnel that may or may not be volunteers, and me as the only ALS provider with like 10 or 15 patients from a wreck or a house fire or something like that. So I started running these events in that manner, like a worst case scenario. And I do that at my house 2 to 3 weeks before that happens. I write out the worst case scenario. I have this many floors. What is the absolute DEFCON 1? We don't have a med team. And I can get down to a very limited number of people. If I have more than 2 floors and I have less than 2 people, I can't run the event. And that is if you base your medical care solely off of the people that signed up for medical. But the caveat to that is if you expand into an emergency preparation, you really only need 1 or 2 med leads that know what's going on and can direct those people that you Red Cross tag. Then that expands it out. Now, these are all Band-Aids, if you will, that kind of fix the problem at hand, but they work, and they work well.
Yeah, it's a growing problem, but I do like the fact the cross training across, like having judges with the Red Cross, if they have these skills or they work in that profession, it's a way to use people from other teams. But my God, the plan as a lead with a volunteer base, and then the stress of we are responsible for these people's safety, and we don't even know the numbers we're getting until the day of the event. Truly.
Yeah. And it happens. I mean, even since 2015, 2014, we've, you'll sign up 40 people and 5 or 6 of them won't show up. You're going to have that. And thankfully not frequently on the med team, but I have had people show up, get their free gear, and never come back. And I would like to say I have a running list of people that have done that or been absolutely awful to personnel, athletes, or just not done their job. So if you think you're going to come in on my team and work one event and get away with that, I'm probably not the guy to do that to, because that list goes vastly farther than just the events that I do.
Yeah.
So
when you're a part of that volunteer community and people know you're good at whatever you sign up for, that's why they bring you back over and over again. And it becomes family, just like you talked about off the top. Going to events, even to this day, the people I volunteered with back when I was a volunteer are still some of my best friends when I go to the events. And the connections I have with the judging community, being able to ask standards from the media pit has been essential to what I do today. Yeah. So there's a bunch of questions in here. I want to hit a couple of these. Jeffrey Birchfield asks, is Sean Rockett this is in reference to the medical director.
Yeah.
Is Sean Rockett at the games?
I understand I read the question. It's I'm older, but my eyes haven't given out yet, so I could read that tiny print.
Yeah.
Rockett works the events. He's not the medical director for the games. He's a very, very, very big component for the games. And just, I don't know, if you've never met the guy, he's just such a good dude. So, I mean, just like on a CrossFitter, like personal level, he's just a great guy and a very big asset to have at any event.
Yeah. And I think Savon's having him on later this week.
Awesome.
Too. So that's really cool too. Do you have people on your team that are not medically trained?
That's another good question. I do have a handful of spots. I keep those for students. They're not, I won't say that they're not medically trained, but they may or may not be licensed. A good indication of that is in Miami every year, we work very closely with the Jackson, I think it's Jackson Memorial Hospital, and they send up their residents with their attending, and they work with us. So they're not, they do have a license, but it's not quite, they're not through yet. So they come in and they provide services. But I personally, EMT students, nursing students, I'll allow them in. They're just not allowed to do direct care. They're with us and they have to have a chaperone. So I have groups of people that kind of teach them the flow. And, that goes about spreading the knowledge of how we do this. So it goes to the next generation. I have to keep those spots open because there are good people out there that just aren't ready yet.
Yeah. This goes with another one. Clock. A demoralizing thing about learning CPR decades ago was that the protocol seemed to be frequently changing in the 80s and 90s. I have no idea what it is now. And then Mark Phillips follows up. Do you even give breaths anymore, or is it all compressions?
If it's just you, it's compressions. That's it. And that's all you really need to know. They've done tons of studies. I'm not going to get deep on this, but just a good little tidbit of advice. They've done studies on bodies where they've filled them with oxygen and then stopped and they start doing chest compressions. And 15 minutes later, they're still pumping mildly oxygenated blood. You've got to get the blood going. So it's just like a car with oil. If you stop pumping, blood pressure goes to zero. It's not moving any air. And then you start pumping again. First pump, it's moving a little bit. Second, it's moving a little bit. By the fourth or fifth one, now you've got perfusion. And then you stop at 100 or 120. You stop, and then it goes back to zero. So you want to keep it going. And that's really changed with something they call pit crew CPR, where it's just a continuous CPR, like just compressions. When in doubt, pump it out. Just keep pressing that chest and don't stop until you get an AED or something on there. That's the best advice I can give anybody.
Mark also asked, what about grads without NCLEX, AANP, etc.?
So those are that's some of the ones that I would talk about. You do have some grads that are moving through school. They're fine. I can apply them to that kind of student group, and we'll allow them to kind of come in. They ask questions. Another thing people don't realize, and you just spoke about it without actually naming it, networking, working these events. You can network, and it goes way outside of the sport. So having resources in there, like let's say you are a grad, but you don't have the NCLEX or any of the certs yet, because you kind of don't really know which direction you want to go. Well, you have resources to ask if you do that. So yes, I have those spots. Yes, I do involve them. I don't have many of them. I wouldn't have a team of people like that, but I could add 1, 2, sometimes 3. I think the most I ever had was 4, but that's a huge event.
So I want to ask you, going forward in this space, if you had your wish for any one thing to have at your beck and call, or the number one thing on your wish list, what would that be to make your job easier and better
at all events?
Yeah.
1 or 2 more paid medical leads. So it's not all on me because I can't be everywhere at once. And we have that at WFP, and we have that at Wadapalooza, and it's expanding, and that's at the games as well. Having those paid staff puts them on another level. It gets them there. It gives them incentive to be there, and they help me to be better. And a rising tide raises all ships, and anybody that says they're the best at what they do, they're just complacent. So you've got to surround yourself with people that make you better. That's what I've tried to do.
This is Jake from the Base Show. In the US, is there a requirement to do your CPR for being a trainer? I don't believe there is.
I think it depends on where you get your certification. I know the level 1, and if you're going to be an affiliate owner, you have to have it. You have to have your CPR. Level 2, your certified CrossFit coach and certified CrossFit trainer, all of those require CPR. I don't know about the personal trainer stuff. I don't know. It's what is that? NSCA. I mean, they'll probably give you a 6-pack of Coke and let you come in.
Yeah. When I got my level 1, I wasn't required to have CPR. Now, when I coached at the gym I coached at, the box required me to be CPR certified. But there was no requirement by law that I have it back then anyway.
I think CPR training goes down to integrity of what you're doing. If you take it professionally, why wouldn't you want to have that? I mean, if you're wanting to better people's lives, you're going to get people in that are in a terribly deconditioned state. Even if they get fit quickly, they are for a while at a higher risk of a mortality incident like that. So, I think that comes down to a little bit of personal accountability. And I think anybody that's worth their salt is going to try to have that. It makes you more available to people when they know they can not just lean on you for encouragement and coaching and programming and nutrition advice, but also in their worst moment, they know you're still going to have their back, and their best chance of survival is to work with you. You need some CPR?
Yeah, that was just for demo purposes. I believe that every gym that operates in this country should have an AED and their staff is CPR certified. And I know I've been to gyms that did not have that.
Yep. I believe that should be, I think that should be something that is legally required. Like, what people don't realize about having an AED on site is you can literally put yourself on a map, and you may be helping somebody that's not a member of your gym. Might be somebody at a business next door or right down the street, and you are the closest responder. I mean, that's just what it is. And they've become so inexpensive. Like, to have that and not need it is better than to need it and not have it. Always. Same goes for CPR.
Yeah.
Same goes for toilet paper.
Yeah.
Jake, one of those things.
Exactly. Jake says, my question would be, why wouldn't you do it? Because Jar Jar Binks comes in and says, only the L3 require CPR.
Yeah.
1 and 2
okay.
But yeah, it only makes sense to have it. If you're going to be training people who are taking their body to exertion, you should have CPR certification. Still with me, Hicks, or you froze? I think I may have lost.
No, I can see you. Yeah.
Okay. You froze up on me, but you're back now.
Yeah, I don't really know what happened there. Oh. But I'm still good. Can you see me?
It's one of those radioactive deer. They just went by.
That's what it is. It must be close to the window.
Yeah, there it is. Mark Phillips, and make it fairly.
You there?
Good Samaritan guidelines, protection when using the AED. Yeah. Yeah.
So the Good Samaritan laws are something that we operate off of.
I think we hit a bad cell signal or something for Hicks.
Yeah, maybe. I'm on Wi-Fi. I don't really know what's going on. I got some storms moving through, so maybe that's it.
Okay.
I do live in the boondocks, so I know that Florida has some things. If you're an out-of-state medical provider, you can come work events, and it kind of protects you in that way.
Yeah, but in this country, like the Good Samaritan Act, I wish it had more strength to it, but I don't think it has what it used to, and that's a shame.
Yeah, I agree.
I
think safety's at everything I do. I'm even in terms of like hunting and stuff. I have private clients that I coach, and I have them all develop an individual first aid kit because, we're out in the woods. We carry sharp objects with us. I actually wrote a couple of articles that are on Mayhem Hunt. It's on the website specifically about safety in the backcountry. It's the same thing. Like, you can apply that to every day. You should have one in your glove box. You never know.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to thank you for jumping on. I know we're starting to get a bad signal with your storms. It could be me. We have rain here in Ohio today too. So, but as always, man, I like hanging out with my friends. And
Absolutely.
you become one of my better ones. It always brightens my day when I see you at an event and get to hang out a little bit.
No doubt.
Well, with that, guys, thank you for being here. If you have any questions, shoot them to me. I can shoot them to Hicks if you're running an event or interested in joining the medical team. I know we have some medical people in the chat. Reach out to Hicks on Instagram. Are you still Pro Medic Hicks?
That's it. That's me.
Pro Medic Hicks on Instagram, or reach out to me and I'll get something to him. And everybody's saying thank you. Shanna, thanks. Jay Birch, good to see you, brother.
Yeah.
Excellent conversation, guys. Thanks so much. So yeah, super fun and glad to see that we're moving in a good, positive direction with the safety and health of the athletes and everybody at the event. So thank you for doing this, man.
Yeah, man. Absolutely. I don't know when I'll stop or if I'll ever.
Yeah, you never will. It's too much fun. With that, guys, we'll see you next time on Lunch with the Clydesdale. Bye.